The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast. I guess we're live now.
Hi, I guess we are. I have to say that's my favorite background ever.
You like that?
That is literally my favorite background ever. Awesome.
I did it just for you. I thought it was so you. It was not even funny. Like very disco-y,
really cool.
dancey. I could see you,
I like it.
Dancing on somebody's grave over that. So
probably. As if I had music, it would have made it more of an experience, I think.
Oh, out at the grave?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to keep that in mind next time.
For next year.
Next time we're out at Ed Gein's grave and you want to dance on his mom's grave, I'll bring music. Just tell me what song you want.
Thanks for thinking of me, Todd. Look at my hoodie today. Look at my hoodie.
What does it say? Peace, love, ghosts.
Peace, love, ghosts. That's my hoodie today. Happy Ghostober.
Happy Ghostober. It's a Sunday, which we're not really used to doing Sunday broadcasts, but here we are with a live cast for you because we're doing something very special today with the Apps team, all about Hotel Saranac.
Yeah, and many years in the making. I think they did their first investigation of the Hotel Saranac in 2014. Went back, I think it was last year they went back and had quite the interesting experience both times. So we're going to talk to them today and find out exactly what happened and maybe what their conclusions of the whole investigation are.
Okay. Just to kind of run through some stuff we've got coming up this week. Tomorrow night, I'll be on the Real Ghost Stories Online podcast. So I'll be doing that with my friend Tony. I'm lucky to co-host that one. Tuesday night, we have something. Aren't we digging with Deej, right?
Crazy. It's going to be the Jersey History Hunter first at 5:30 Eastern. We're going to do an hour with Sue and Damon from Apps. And then we're going to take a 15-minute break and do an hour with Digging with Deej. And you can like both of those on Facebook, both of those pages to get details, and they will post their live YouTube links. So that's 2 hours of fun and conversation about woo-woo and paranormal, and it's always a great time. I did Digging with Deej with Sue and Damon about 2 months ago, and we were on for like 3 hours. We had a blast.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's Tuesday. Wednesday night, the amazing Gina Koch will be with us.
She's a multidimensional spirit communicator, energy healer, activator, channel, and earth healer. I have it written down here.
I'm so glad you said that because I could never remember all of that stuff. And we had our sessions with her last week. Phenomenal. So she'll be joining us Wednesday night. So super busy week.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And by the end of it, we're both going to be completely tired out because it's only Sunday, and I'm already beat. So
I know, and that's not counting. That's just live casts and things that we're doing. That's not even counting all the other stuff we have to do. Yeah, and we have jobs. So
do you have a job?
This isn't a job to me. This is just fun.
Our audio cast also goes out today. What's the topic? Isn't it Sue and Damon this week?
It's part one of our conversation from last week with Damon and Sue and Dennis Webster, who is the founder of my team, Fort Schuyler Paranormal Society, and also a very, very well-known and lauded local author.
Yeah. In fact, one of his books, The Old Main, is back there. It always sits back there underneath the light. So
it's a great book. It's a great book. So.
Well, I guess we should probably get these guys out here. Because we're going to try and keep this broadcast to just over an hour or so. And I know that we have a lot to talk about.
let's join the apps team live. There they are. Look at them. Look at them.
Yay.
Look at that team. So, okay.
Damon and Sue, we know.
Right.
And we'll get to know the other members of that group right there. And then while we were talking, they decided to switch sides. Brett and Sarah are now Sarah and Brett. So.
Oh, crap.
We're all right. We still look like the pitchfork, so we're good.
There you go.
I know.
Andy and I are talking. All of a sudden, I see them get up and like walk away. And I'm like, no, we're going live. Don't go anywhere. And then they come back and they're in different locations. I thought that was pretty funny.
But you guys look pretty even. We were talking about it beforehand, how it's hard to be a short person with a tall person, and you guys did it. You look good. So.
They went to the van to get the booster seats. What happened?
Yeah.
It looks good, Brad. You look good, Brad. It's all good.
We just went down in progression.
Hold on.
Got to fix the hair.
Right.
Well, we got you guys all together because, apps, a paranormal team, going out and I hate the term hunting ghosts, but a lot of people kind of understand that whole philosophy. And we've talked with Damon and Sue several times on many different subjects, including spooky movies this past week. But we really want to talk about a specific investigation that you guys were a part of at Hotel Saranac. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, can we do a little roundtable and get everybody's names and tell us when you joined the team, but more importantly, I'd love to know what got you interested in investigating paranormal stuff. So if we can start in the apps room there, I'm sorry. Listen.
Those fighting words.
Listen.
I thought this is an interesting picture. I got to bring this one up right away because speaking of taps, hang on one second here. I've got it.
He's going to do it.
Oh, no.
Dang it, where is it? I had it all set up for you
Find
guys.
Thank God.
It's you guys in front of the taps at the bar. What did I do with that?
Oh!
Yeah,
Okay.
it's your group picture.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it someplace. I'll find it. But if you guys go around the room, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, what side do we start? Me? I'm guessing me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
Amy Lynn.
Hey, Amy.
I've been part of apps since 2015, 16. One of those years. It's right
15.
right after my dad passed.
Yep. 50.
I was into paranormal since I can remember. I grew up in a haunted house. My grandparents' house was haunted. Every house I've ever visited in my family was haunted. So I just always been surrounded by spirits.
Amy Lynn, can I ask you, your dad passed. You mentioned your dad passed.
Yes.
I want to just ask the question, how does that play into what you do now?
A lot of times I go to my father for guidance because I tend to look for my ancestors for protection and stuff like that. So my father, I was a daddy's girl, still am a little bit. And she's nodding her head yes because she knows. And my way of coping was using my father as someone I can go to when I needed the extra protection. So I prayed to him and all that. And when he passed, I kind of I needed something, and Susie brought me onto the team, and I've been here ever since.
Let me do one more follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
Do you investigate differently knowing that a close member of your family is gone?
I don't know because I never investigated before my father left me. So I would say if I started, I probably would have done differently.
I only bring it up because I think that once my mother passed, I realized that whatever we're dealing with was a human at some point. And I think that I always feel like if somebody ever contacted my mom or reached out to my mom, I would want them to investigate with respect and sincerity. So I think it did, not that I was an asshole before, but I definitely think that comes to mind even more so now that I have a family member that passed.
I feel like Sandy might have an opinion on this.
My thing is, I know that if I piss them off, they're either, depending on how they were when they're alive, they're either going to play a prank on me or they're just not going to care and walk away. So I'm just like, and I'm not going to be a dick.
Right.
Much.
We'll get that put on a t-shirt for you. Damon, how about reminding everybody about your situation?
I'm Damon. It's been 3 months since my last investigation. Oh wait, wrong group. Sorry. So yeah, I'm Damon. I started originally it was Saranac Lake Paranormal Society. God, that was so long ago. 2008. Rebranded in 2011 to Apps. Somehow met some ragtag members along the way. My first experience was just shortly before I started the original team. When I was working overnight cleaning crew, and we had actually in the building we investigated a couple of years ago. Was my first major experience where I went, okay, yeah, this isn't just bullshit. And then have gone to kind of do less of the overproduced, glamorous investigation process and more of the, like we've talked about in the past, like the ghost lab kind of theory of let's scientifically debunk everything we possibly can, then go with, okay, let's try and figure out what the unexplained is that we can't, prove with equipment and technology and, common sense.
Right.
Kind of stuff.
Right. All right. Who's next? Give it to me.
That's me. I'm Jen. I was it'll be 2 years in March since I joined the team. And well, quite honestly, I mean, I live with one of the co-founders, so there's that. There's that. So,
well, then let me just apologize for that right up front.
I think we all apologize.
I was gonna say she hears that regularly from the rest of us.
Yeah. She gets sympathy cards on a regular basis and casseroles and shit. It's like somebody dies every day. Like somebody brings something to the door. We're sorry, and just
At least you're always fed.
Yeah, true.
Tent revival meetings. It all happens.
What about your past experiences, Jen? What got you involved besides being so close to Damon?
Well, that came after. My whole life, I've experiences with the paranormal. Spirits tend to find me. I don't necessarily go looking for them, and I never understood that. My whole life, I didn't get it. Thought I was weird. People thought I was weird.
You are.
Okay. So
we're all weird here. It's okay.
My very first investigation, I had just met these jokers very shortly before this, was Hotel Saranac. Yeah. I literally walked in, and one of my very first authentic, investigations was, we couldn't have been in Hotel Saranac maybe more than a half hour, 45 minutes. So we were downstairs in the basement. Sue can attest to this. Mm-hmm. It came on fire within minutes.
Classic EVP. You couldn't get anything. It was a yes, no answer session, and it worked. If you had filmed it, or if you were trying to train somebody, actually, we were training her.
Yeah.
Everything fell into place. It was as perfect in alignment as you could ask.
Kind of the same scenario as happened when Sandy, when you were with Sarah and Jen and Amy Lynn at the church. Literally 10 minutes after we walked in the door, and stuff started happening, and it just worked fluidly.
Yeah,
and that was the first time that I felt like this is a thing. It's not weird. There's other people that experience this too, and they probably know a whole lot more than I do. So maybe these are my people. And that's how it started. And from there, I mean, I just felt accepted and understood from the beginning. So.
That's a great story. I love hearing stories like that. Sue, I'm not going to ask you about last night, but we will talk about it at a later date on a podcast. Tell me about your past experiences and how it started for you.
I grew up in a house built around 1860, and it wasn't uncommon to hear footsteps. Things being moved around on the upper floor while everybody's on the lower floor. Doors opening.
Don't forget the chair in the window.
Yeah, there's a chair in one of the rooms that we tried to rearrange the room, and that chair would always find its way in front of the window. Didn't find out till many years later that one of the former owners used to like to look at Whiteface Mountain from that window.
Yep.
And so we finally, when we figured that out, we just left the chair there, and it never moved again.
And you heard Jen's story a little bit. Thank goodness that she was able to find the group and be a part of it, because I think we talk about this a lot when we talk about empaths and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you grow up thinking you're just nuts. You know?
Yeah,
so
totally.
it's nice when you finally find people that you can
I've
chat
been
with.
told I'm evil. You know, all these things happen around me. Nobody has.
Listen, don't listen to what
and-
Damon has to say. That's not.
Yeah.
just not
We had the same thought process.
What the hell? Well, I mean, there's that.
Sometimes it can be.
I was gonna say that, Amy Lynn. I was, yeah.
We're certainly glad you guys are with us. Sarah,
Yeah, thank you.
why don't you fill us in on your story?
I joined APS about a year and a half ago. Hotel Saranac was my first investigation. I've always kind of sensed things. When I was a kid, I, had an imaginary friend, supposedly. Her name was Samantha, that showed up to me all the time, and I played toys with her all the time when I was a kid. My mom and my grandmother were very open to this kind of stuff as well. They definitely have always sensed spirits. They've got some crazy kind of psychic abilities about them and stuff. So it was always just kind of accepted with them growing up. But it wasn't really until I met Damon and then realized that, there's more to this.
Yeah.
And then obviously the first investigation going to Hotel Saranac really kind of solidified for me a lot of the feelings and the senses and the things that I was getting is actually real. It does exist. It's not fabricated in my head. It's not just me making it up. And, it's, well, maybe a little bit. But, at the same time, there's something to it. So.
I mean, we're going to get to you, Brett. Hold on. I just want to say, that first time you really experience something and it really is an aha moment for you, isn't it pretty amazing?
It is. Because, a lot of times, like, I'll get things that kind of come to me as like a thought or a memory almost. And I never really understood what that was. And then to be in an investigation and have those kind of things come through and be communicating with dowsing rods and EVPs and have things kind of answered. I'm not crazy. Like Jen said, this is actually happening.
Right.
It's so interesting because, Sarah, that's what happens to me. I get visions, I get thoughts, I get names. Just names will come to me. And I always just thought I had an overactive imagination.
That's what I was always told, that from the time I was a little kid, I had an overactive imagination. And I don't think that's what it was now.
Not at all. And especially the first time, and I'm sure you can relate, the first time that something that you thought about actually came true. That actually did happen. It's like your aha moment. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And it's kind of hard to believe at first, but you kind of get used to it and learn how to trust yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I know when things like all of a sudden I would think something or I'd know something that I shouldn't really know. And then all of a sudden it would happen and it's written. I'm like, how did I know that? Like, why would I know that?
Exactly.
And it would freak me out a little bit. And I'm like, okay, but
and I think it's great to have people. Yeah. And it's great to have people that share those experiences with you, to know that you're not crazy. You're not alone, So it's wonderful.
Brett, why don't you fill us in on your background?
Oh, well, I've been with the team about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
A year and a half. My first investigation was Hotel Saranac. Always just kind of had the feeling that I'm not alone. Like somebody's always with me. Like almost, it's not a nighttime thing, You're like looking around, you're like, oh, the boogeyman's after, But it's just never feeling like you're alone. And then kind of understanding it more later on life, stuff like that. And then kind of meeting the team and realizing, and watching TV shows and stuff, like, oh, that makes sense now.
Cool. Well, everybody, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate you guys all being here.
Thank you. So we just want to get into, which I thought was very interesting, that Jen and Sarah and Brett all experienced the Hotel Saranac as their first investigation.
What a wild place to have as your first place.
You could not have asked for anything.
Hey, if we're going to bring new members in, we're going to baptize them by fire.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
Susie's first investigation was also Hotel Saranac.
But the
That's
first
true.
investigation.
Yep.
True. So let's talk about the Hotel Saranac itself. Now, Sue, I know you're sort of the main historical research person for your investigations. Can you tell us a little bit about the hotel, how it started, how long it's been around, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Hold on. Cheat sheet. All right. So the hotel itself was built in, well, the first part of it was built in not the hotel, sorry. Before the hotel was there, it was a schoolhouse. It was made of wood and brick. Initial foundation of limestone, built in 1898, and then they added on in 1902. The principal of the school, Howard Lytle, was a very, you know how some people just have a certain presence about them and everybody knows who they are.
Yep.
They're well respected, but he demands respect back. And he did that with his students. And he was known for walking up and down the halls. If a teacher couldn't come in, he could jump into any class and teach that class. Fast forward up to 1925, there was a small fire in the schoolhouse, and some of the locals kind of panicked and said, "My God, if this had been a worse fire, the students could have died. We need a brick building," which was all the craze at that point. Everybody wanted brick buildings because they were fire safe.
Right.
And they were moved to another location. The foundation stayed the same. So the hotel came in and built on the exact same foundation footprint of the school.
Wow. And
that opened in 1926. And then from there, it was advertised as the first fireproof hotel. Again, it was very important back in the early 20s. And literally there's cement in the walls. There's cement between the floors. So even if they did have a fire, they could literally stop it from going from another floor and destroying the whole building. And there have been numerous fires in that building over the years. As a matter of fact, 2 of them while I was working there.
And were you the cause?
No.
I was Interesting.
Exactly.
It's actually
goings on during the investigation. Then
it's actually interesting about the brick buildings, because when Dave and I were on vacation in Chicago last month, before we were heading up to see Todd, we were driving around the city, and a huge amount of houses and buildings in the city are made of brick. Yeah. You could go down neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood of just brick houses. That's all you see. And so I kind of did a little research on it. And after the Great Fire in Chicago, they decided to start building everything with brick because it was, fireproof. And so I just thought that was interesting that after the fire in the schoolhouse, they built a brick building. So very cool, very interesting.
Well, the hotel was the first one in Saranac Lake to build a fire safe hotel. Others were built over the years, and there was at one time there was 13 of them all over in and around Saranac Lake.
Wow.
But Saranac is the only one still left.
Wow.
And I know you haven't personally been up at Saranac Lake, Sandy, to see Hotel Saranac from the outside. Right. But if you're driving, if you after you do and you come back and say drive through Utica, the Hotel Utica has a very, very striking resemblance to the Hotel Saranac in many, many ways, including the sign on the roof.
Yeah. Interesting.
And is this when I stayed at the Hotel Utica years ago for railroad business, I had that almost same feeling of when I was in the Hotel Saranac. Yeah. So
now, you mentioned that I'm from Utica area originally. I've been in the Hotel Utica, and now that he says it, it is the same feeling. It's like there's electricity in the air almost.
That's interesting.
I'd be curious if the foundation was the same type of foundation, the facade, because Hotel Saranac's facade and foundation, the first 2 stories are limestone.
Well, they were probably built around the same time period.
It looks like they are. Structurally, it looks similar
and
builds.
Probably the same.
Could be the same architect,
Yeah, Jen knows the Hotel Utica is just absolutely beautiful. And I can only imagine in its glory what it actually looked like. Absolutely stunning. So pretty amazing.
So to kind of fast forward to the 1960s, Paul Smith College, which is a fairly well-known college in this area, is known for its culinary arts and hospitality training. Most people will go from Paul Smith's to Paris, and I believe there's one in New York.
New England Culinary Institute and CIA is their top placements after Paul Smith's for the most part, for the culinary side of Paul Smith's.
they wanted to buy the hotel because it had restaurants, it had the rooms, it had the ballroom, it had the great hall, so that they could have hands-on training. Part of the students' training would be work in every aspect of the hotel, from maintenance all the way up to management.
And their student buffet nights were phenomenal.
Yes, every Sunday they would hold a student buffet. There was a group of 6 students, I think. They were in charge of creating the menu, creating the advertisement, creating and actually doing the actual buffet where you're serving and everything else, setting up the tables and the whole 9 yards. It was absolutely fantastic tourism. Eventually, Paul Smith decided to have it on their campus rather than away from the campus, and that's why they ended up selling it. But there was it had a combination of full-time rentals, part-time rentals. They would use people in the community to help teach. It was quite a thing. They did make a lot of changes while it was under their hands, so to speak. When we did the first investigation, it was pre-reno.
They had just started doing demo in the lower levels. The entire basement, like where your office was just gutted down to the support posts.
Yep.
And just literally a lone bathroom in the center of the basement with one little light bulb on, that was creepy enough as it was.
Yep.
And they had literally just started pulling furniture and...
Well, there had been a flood in there at one time.
Yeah.
And it ruined a lot of the equipment in the basement because all the laundry stuff was down in the basement and the maintenance.
The flood actually occurred. It was a year before we investigated because I was on the fire department at the time, and I remember that flood. It was pretty bad. The sprinkler system, because nobody was there keeping up the building. Literally, when we were investigating, it literally looked like the previous owners after Hotel Saranac literally locked the doors and walked away, and it was just like you could see like housekeeping carts still in the hallway. Beds were half made, that kind of stuff. Well, they just kind of locked the doors and walked away, and in turn, nobody was maintaining anything. It was like a 15-inch main coming into the basement for the sprinkler system, and it blew out. And it literally looked like a scene from Titanic where the water's coming up through steerage. Mm-hmm. Literally, there was hotel tables floating across the floor by the stairwell when we were going down.
Smack me in the face.
Well, you're in the way. I talk with my hand.
Hey, you don't gotta tell me that.
But yeah, it was a pretty bad flood, and we came in the year after. And it was, like I said, the basement was totally gutted, for obvious reasons. First floor was in the process of being gutted at the time. They had actually just broken some concrete down to the original floor in the lobby.
Because originally the hotel had shops when you walked into the main floor.
Yeah.
And there was shops on the left and on the right. There was
called the arcade style. It was arcade style shop. Yeah.
They had barber shops. They had bookstores. They had you name it, cigar shops.
Yep. Do you guys think that, and I kind of know the answer to this, but do you guys think that any kind of flooding or fires or construction in a building like that with such a history sort of amps everything up for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we were thinking going in was, okay, these guys, the Rodells, are phenomenal people. That's an amazing company that bought this place. Because honestly, if it wasn't the Rodells, the place probably would have been leveled in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. They brought it back to what it was in the late 20s, early 30s for its look, its design, its functionality. I mean, yes, the rooms are more modern now, and you don't have to worry about reaching your arms out and touching both walls at the same time. But they brought back the arcade in the first floor, because the lobby for the hotel was in the second floor, where that picture of us standing by the bar, that was the original lobby for the hotel.
Wow.
So to bring it back to where it was, I think that was major. We had that exactly.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the original bar. That's the original. Beautiful. The bar back is different, but that's the original, where the bar placement that hasn't changed since day one.
Just so weird that they're standing at a bar.
Well,
Sue. Is anything holding you up there, Sue? Just be honest.
Her elbow in the bar. So that picture was actually taken by Dennis, actually, when we were going to do our prior. Yeah, no, it was after that. That was prior to our doing the second investigation. That was when Dennis was starting to collect information for his Haunted Adirondacks book.
Yeah.
But I think the first investigation, it was huge hotspot for activity all around.
Mhm.
I honestly feel that they knew it was going back to its original glory, and that's why it was so active.
Right.
Fast forward to the 2020 investigation, it was active, but in a different way.
Okay.
But in the same token, it was also calm.
Yeah.
So-
it wasn't as active because it was back to what it was.
So maybe a little less agitated, you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Now, who are
Didn't have
some of the
negative experiences that we had in the first one?
who are some of the main players in this? I heard some of the audio from one of your EVP sessions,
Mhm.
and you mentioned a Tim, and then we know about the lady with the cat. So can you guys go into that a little bit for us and explain some of the spirits and some of the experiences that the hotel is known for?
Well, the first gentleman I had mentioned, Mr. Lytle, principal of the high school. It wasn't uncommon for those of us that worked there to hear footsteps, like somebody's walking around, and you go, especially if you're the only one down in the basement, and you go down and you're checking to make sure who's down here is not supposed to be here. You see a shadow of a person with a top hat and a long coat, and you can always hear his boots going up and down those halls.
Huh.
And on the third floor, there was a lady that passed away. And the third floor was primarily long-term residents.
Was she third? I thought she was fourth floor.
Third.
Third. Okay.
It was in the adjoining room, 310 and 312. She had a do not disturb sign on her door. Nobody bothered her. She was a bit cranky to begin with, so they kind of gave it a wide berth. And some of the residents were complaining about the smell. So the managers went up to go knock on her door and, say, you've got to have housekeeping come in. That was their intention. They opened the door and they found her dead on the bed. She'd been dead for several weeks.
Yikes.
Yeah. And there was a cat in there, and the cat took off. Nobody ever knew what happened to the cat. There's all kinds of stories what happened to the cat. But it wasn't uncommon to find a perfect ring on a perfectly made bed like a cat would do.
Huh.
Or if you were making the bed, to feel something tapping at your foot, like if a cat's underneath the bed, kind of whacking at your feet. Yeah, swatting. Let's see, there was Mrs. Peroni was well known there. She actually was from Paul Smith College. She was the head of the culinary, and she created the kitchen up on the second floor. So that was primarily pastries, and it was for the
She was the one who also taught the tea service stuff too, right?
Mrs. Dudley taught the tea service.
Dudley.
Now that was an example of the college using people that lived there to help the students, to train the students. In this case, it was tea setting, and she would sit with the students and teach them proper tea etiquette. Mrs. Dudley. Let's see, who was another one? Oh, Tim.
Tim. Yeah.
He was another long-term resident. There was a fire down in the Boathouse bar, which was down on the main floor, and the smoke obviously goes up the stairwells. And he didn't die from the fire. He panicked because of the smoke, and he actually had a massive heart attack near the door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was a more traumatic death, and that was the one that particular entity we had interactions with both nights on the first investigation.
Yeah.
Not so much the second one, though.
Yeah, it seemed to have quieted down.
Yeah, he seemed to have dissipated by the second one, but
didn't have a trigger.
Yeah. There was some
Yeah.
triggers on the first investigation that weren't there in the second one. So yeah, I mean, but there, and then there was somewhere along the way we feel there was a little girl as well. And I think you heard that in that EVP that I shared with you guys, because we had that conversation about, is there more than one entity up here? Is it the little girl as well? Not a lot of back history on that one. It was more of witness reports and stuff like that, but nothing actually firm, hard. Again, like we've always said, we don't distribute anything unless we have hard backing documentation to prove it. But there was enough witness statements that it was okay. Maybe it's legit, but we don't have enough information to do a deep dive to figure out who it is.
So does the hotel get experiences reported by both staff and by people who stay there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
They actually they had back then. They do now. One of our former members was working the desk there for a little while after we did our first investigation. I know she had guests coming to her regularly saying, "Hey, this, and this was going on." I know there's staff that have reported that.
Floor, people walking behind them, and they turned around. There was nobody
We
there.
did a presentation last Halloween. Yes. We did a public reveal for both investigations, and I know some of the staff was there, and the look of, okay, this is validation on their faces as we were giving some of this information, like, oh, it's not just me, I'm not just crazy. It was priceless.
And we had a few of them come up afterwards.
Yeah, we had a bunch of them come up afterwards and say, hey, I'm glad you guys said this because I honestly thought I was going batshit crazy.
It's easy.
Still a lot of activity in the basement.
Yeah, the basement still has activity. In fact, the GM at the time sent me some photos of literally looked like somebody was walking through water and left footprints on the concrete floor. Mm-hmm. Unexplained, wasn't raining that day, was nowhere near where the spot was in the basement, but just a lone set of footprints, bam, right in the concrete.
That's crazy.
We're gonna start showing some of the photos and get to some of the EVP stuff here. But you brought up an interesting point, Damon, and I kind of wanted to get a little roundtable discussion on this too, and that is that the energy changed from one investigation to another. And I think that's interesting because when people think of quote unquote haunted locations, they think that it's always haunted. It's always going to be haunted like this. It's always this that's happening. Yep. It's always this energy. And I think that energy, while it may not ever go away, it can change. Yep. And I think
with the best intentions. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in this situation, they were bringing it back. You said the energy kind of changed from being more frantic and crazy to maybe a little bit more relaxed. And it sounds like maybe even died off a little bit more since then. So I just thought
it's definitely cooled its heels a little bit. When we went in the first time, we had a lot of interactions with Tim being one of them. And it was obviously he died a traumatic death, and there was some triggering that caused that negative interaction with us. I mean,
lighters are not flashlights.
Yeah. We came in slightly ill prepared. It was our first major investigation. Not all of us had flashlights, but some of us were smokers, and we decided to figure out what room number we were at, and somebody lit a lighter to do that. And that triggered off a chain of events that lasted about 45 minutes. Also in that same EVP that you guys have, it's all in that same EVP. It was a good 65-minute EVP session because we've cut them down since then. But yeah, I mean, it triggered some stuff. But since then, and especially since the Rodells brought it back to its original look and feel, like you said, the dynamic has changed completely. It's not this. When we walked in the first time, it was definitely this what the hell's going on sense, this agitated, we don't like this at all kind of feeling. When we walked in the second time,
well, they brought it back to what it was originally.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of what maybe calmed the spirits down.
When we walked in the second time, it was very much calm. It was very, okay, hey, welcome home.
Right.
Welcome back.
Right. And don't you guys think that, it depends on the people in the team too. Like the first team maybe wasn't prepared, blah, blah, blah. That energy may have been kind of frantic as well.
Yes.
And you guys walked in the second time a little bit more confident, a little bit more understanding of what you were getting yourselves into. I think that plays so much a big part of the interaction that happens when teams investigate.
Well, I mean, and honestly, the second investigation, one of the reasons we were able to get in is because it was COVID. So it was not being used at the time. Yeah. So it was open, and that's how we got in. And, they were redoing it the first investigation, and then there was stuff remodeling going on in the second investigation.
And I think, and COVID, speaking of that actually kind of it hits a little warning or red flag as well. Not really a warning, but a kind of another hey, okay. Is Hotel Saranac was built 26.
Yep.
right in the heat of tuberculosis curing.
Yeah.
Yes.
COVID, tuberculosis.
Yep.
You
Right.
got that. You
Makes
got
sense.
that little bit of connection there. Saranac Lake is we'll call it what it is. It's a mecca for tuberculosis cures back in the day.
Yeah.
And that hotel has ties to everything else we've investigated in Saranac Lake. Again, referring back to Dennis's book, the hotel was kind of the hub for the village when it came to that stuff. So
well, a lot of families would stay at the hotel.
Yeah.
When they had the family members that were at the hospitals for the TB.
So it makes sense that walking
stop.
in the second investigation while under COVID, the place was empty because it was closed due to COVID. It makes sense that there was that more of that, not just us, but more of the beings in the building going, okay, we've done this before. We know our shit.
Right.
Welcome to the hotel. Enjoy your stay.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
let's do this. You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't very frantic. And what the hell are you doing here? Why are you destroying my building?
Hey guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Welcome back.
Horrible. Hey,
Good
Susie.
question.
Oh God.
Okay, now I want to know who's sitting on the toilet. That's my
That
first
will be
question.
Brett.
You're broken out, man. And was
Oh.
just trying to handle the
And the
business.
dowsing rods.
Every-
When you
everything
gotta go,
going-
you gotta go.
Everything going on okay in there, Brett? Just wondering.
Oh yeah, it was perfect.
The hotel has great amenities.
It looks like I was fishing.
Let's. It does too, Brett. It does. Let's talk a little bit
Fishing
about
with
the
a thermal
dowsing
detector.
rods.
Oh, I gotta say something about the dowsing rods. Okay, so maybe off topic. Damon and I were not together my first investigation. He got out those dowsing rods and went, "Wait a minute, what is going on here?" And
Mhm.
it was just a moment, and you know, your first impression with the team, and you know,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
We were a bunch of kooks.
no,
Yeah.
no.
I will
Well,
say
I
this.
mean, you
But
don't
those-
see a lot of teams on TV using dowsing
Yeah,
rods.
No.
There was a moment I went, "Wait a minute, what is this?"
Well, I will tell you this. I have dowsing rods and I dabble and I use them and they work for me. But
Yep.
when we were at the Russia Union Church and Damon pulled out the dowsing rods, and I think Sarah and Jen, it was like us three and then Damon. And we were sitting upstairs and he started using them. And these things were like insanely moving around and answering his questions. And it was just
Before they came out of our
phenomenal to
mouths.
watch. Yeah.
And it was being backed up by the K2 and the REM pod. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like it was being, and that's what we do. When we use a dowsing rods or we use a pendulum, we always back it up with a piece of actual equipment to
Yep.
say, hey, look, we're not just manipulating this crap and it's happening.
Yeah.
We want to back it up with something. So we're not like, okay, we're just using, archaic tools that can be easily manipulated. We use a K2, we use the EDI meter, we use a REM pod,
Right.
to back up our findings.
And I think, in all honesty, like I said, the dowsing rods were one of my first things I noticed. It was the fact that they did have all this other stuff that could measure what was going on there. And it was a clear moment of, wait a minute, I'm not crazy. Wait a minute, there's energy around whatever he's doing right now, and it's being measured by something else.
Ghost Hunters was the first show that I saw dowsing rods on, and that quickly went away from the show way back when. You
Because
could tell
they got razzed there because it was gray area.
Well,
They take a ton of energy out of you too, because I use them too, and they just drain the crap because you're using yourself to channel it.
Correct.
It's not like a K2 where it's a machine you're looking at, like that. But the dowsing rods are channeling it through you, and it just that's the best way to do it because
I think fortunately, unfortunately, dowsing rods are looked at as personal experience more than they are scientific equipment.
Well,
so when
it's
you
no
can
different
marry
than
the
using a
two,
pendulum.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. It's no different than using a pendulum.
that's right. And when you
That's
can
what I was
marry
saying,
the
yeah.
two together to get a great result, I think it just lends credence. I love
Yeah.
dowsing rods. I think they're fantastic.
I
So
use
I
them
just
to
wanted
find
to bring up
out
that point
well.
because
I water
Yeah.
with them too.
That was my first experience was when I was young, and my father, we were looking for water out on land where we were going to build a house, and my dad had his dowsing rods out,
Yeah.
so it was the first time that I kind of understood a little bit about how they worked. My freaking father, who's 91 right now, probably doesn't even remember doing that, but
That would be Matt.
and this was in the 2014 investigation,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
look, I actually had the timestamp correct on the photo.
Wow. The timestamps, I never have correct timestamps ever.
That's my
Never.
pet peeve.
I never do.
It's because once you change the batteries, it resets, and you're like,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, so that was from the first investigation. And do you remember where he was for that?
That was in the 400s. That was room 424.
How the heck do you remember that exactly?
I know.
That's the one with the cat on the bed.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Gotcha.
310. Okay, so that's room 310. Well, the great thing about the first investigation, again, we were green. We didn't take many pictures, so the ones we have are memorable. And that one was actually that made the front page of the local paper up here when the Hotel Saranac did a press release the year after we did the first investigation. Matt was it was the middle of an EVP session, I'm pretty sure.
It was.
Yeah.
What you can't see on the other side of the camera, there was, I think, three more of us.
Yeah, we were kind of all huddled in, cameras on Matt, going, okay, what's he doing? Let's see how this is going to roll.
It's a great picture, fantastic picture, because I think it really shows what goes on.
It was a clear example of something measuring what was going on, other than just what Matt was saying. It was a clear, hey, this look. It's right there.
And what an investigation can be like, which is a lot of time spent just sitting there,
Exactly.
and there's, it's sitting there on the toilet, for instance. I mean,
hey, when you get a good EVP, you get a good EVP.
Sometimes it's in the weirdest places.
Exactly.
You never know.
Yeah.
Got to go where it takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now, which investigation was this? One or two?
This is the 2020 investigation. Jen's actually literally between Sarah and Jen, they were taking notes like nobody else's business, which is fantastic because we didn't have that in the first investigation. So we have all these personal experiences and logging of what we're doing during the investigation. Matt apparently is radioing for a pizza at the time. I'm pretty sure is what's going on there.
Actually, I think I called up to them.
In the back, yeah, I think you were calling from command. In the background, that's Jess, who's our assistant manager for the team, and it looks like that's Bobby, which was Dennis's significant other at the time, that was assisting in the investigation, because Dennis was with us as well on this investigation.
Right.
And we were doing, I'm not sure what room this is.
I think we were on the 5th floor. Maybe 13, I think.
The only downfall with the 2020 investigation was all the rooms looked the same and all the hallways looked the same after they renovated. So there's no way to distinguish what room we were in.
Right.
Whereas
There's
the first
no
time,
markers inside the room either, which was because they used Corey and Susie, because I have no idea.
all the doors had big numbers on the inside of the door when we did the first investigation. So we kind of knew if we were taking a picture towards the door, what room we were in. This was a pain in the butt for us on this investigation because we had all these pictures. We had over 200 pictures on the second investigation, and we're literally going, okay, what the hell room are we in for that one? Trying to figure out time stamps as well as date stamps.
And we had to go back to the EVP session.
Yeah. We're not quite, I'm not quite sure what, I think that might have been 5th floor, like Sarah was saying.
I think it was.
I think we were kind of following up on last investigations, discussions and trying to see if, we could get similar results or same results from one of the 5th floor interactions we had.
It's great that you have those notes to look back on. I think there's a lot of groups, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know that in groups that I've been in, there's not a lot of documentation going on during the actual investigation. You got your audio. Yeah.
I couldn't believe what was going on. I'm like, my first investigation, there's proof right in front of me that this is happening, and I just kept writing it down.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe this is happening.
I literally, for every investigation, we've probably got a good inch thick worth of file for each investigation.
Oh, is this at a bar again by any chance?
It might be. Well, okay.
The same bar.
So okay, the Hotel Saranac, also during the 20s, speakeasies were a thing. So we were trying to, I think we were, I'm not sure why there was actual liquid in the cups, but we were trying to do some triggering.
We were recreating.
Yeah, that's what it was. We were recreating stuff.
We were trying to create a positive.
I was the one taking the picture because I didn't want to be involved in the recreations.
I appreciate I'm right on the other side of Matt, and I appreciate him cropping me out.
Right? But no, I think we were having I think it was some sort of, we were trying to do an EVP session at the bar kind of deal.
Because it's the original bar and there's a lot of original stuff there. So
that's kind of that. Well, now it's a kind of a sitting room. When we were there the first time, that was a stairwell.
Yep.
Wow.
They took out the center stairwell, and the center stairwell was installed in the 50s.
No. 70s.
Early 70s. Okay.
That was Paul Smith.
Paul Smith put a center stairwell in, and because you can actually see the recess in the ceiling there, because that actually was the original stairwell column. They took it out, but we had experiences in that center stairwell the first time around.
Always.
So we were trying to, we were just random candid shots, seeing if there was anything, kind of semi-active. The other issue, I won't say it's an issue, but a kind of a setback for us was we weren't able to kill every single light in the building like we were the first time. Everything's controlled remotely from the home office, and stuff was on sensors and motion sensors and crap like that. Hallway lights didn't go off, so it was a pain in our ass trying to conduct a decent investigation. So this picture we were talking about, Mrs. Dudley that does the tea service stuff. We purposely offset a tea setting to see if it would trigger something,
which is the bottom one,
which is the bottom setting down here. And I believe another photo you had a picture of a cell phone with the same picture over top of it.
Let me see here.
That
one.
So
the spoon moved out.
The spoon is moved out from where we left it.
Wow,
our only downfall was we didn't put an actual live camera on there, like a DVR, to watch. But when we were all upstairs, nobody was downstairs. Command was even empty. And when we came back down, we were like, "Hey, check the tablet setting real quick." And literally, everything was set perfectly when we came back.
And literally, the setup of that was literally, we all walked in the building. That was the very first thing I'd experienced with anyone on this team. And this one says to me, "Hey, Jen, come here. I'm going to set this up."
Kind of the same thing she did with you, Sandy, at the Ghost Post or Ghost Toast and Pubs thing. Was she literally, let's poke the bear and see what happens.
So reference for our viewers right now, the setting on the very left is the one we're looking at in the next picture. See the spoon, and you can see the cream thing kind of next to it. So the one on the left is now the one on the bottom right in front of you. There it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And we didn't even realize it so much later in the night. It's not like we it just, we went by and went, "Oh, wait a minute. Hang on."
We were all up on numerous floors up above the Great Hall,
and I was in command.
So there was nobody downstairs except for Amy Lynn, but she was keeping watch of the cameras.
And I think around the same time between there upstairs and no one's in the dining room, the Great Hall, there was an apparition of an old lady coming down the side of the dining.
Yep. And Mrs. Dudley was a very old lady.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Because we had cameras, but they weren't focused completely on that table. We had just kind of passive covering the whole Great Hall.
It was in that room. Amy Lynn was at command. And again, I'm just getting my bearings. And I went and I sat down with Amy Lynn. And I don't know if you remember this, but we're looking at the cameras. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of the screen that we're looking at in that dining room, there's like a mist that comes up from the corner, literally went almost about 2 inches into the screen, materialized into almost like a human form, and then just disappeared.
Wow.
What the hell was that?
Like, we were like, I was literally clicking back and was like, and then pausing. It was like,
Amy Lynn. Amy Lynn, what is it, Amy Lynn?
It's like, well, we caught something. Mark it down.
Let me ask you guys this. What was your one, if you had to pick one big aha moment from that investigation, what would you say was your big moment?
And let's do a roundtable on it. I'd like to get everybody's perspective on that one.
So either year or the...
Yeah, out of everything. Yeah.
Sue?
I think for me...
Susan.
Well, there was a few of them.
That ghost box session.
I think I'll pick the one. Because I worked there for 8 years, and I always had respect for the ghosts that were there. And if you were walking down the hall and I heard something behind me and there was nobody there, I would say, "Hey, I'm just doing this," or whatever. Same thing with seeing the shadow of Mr. Lytle down in the basement. I'd respond to him and say, "Hey, we're closed, so you need to go home." But I think my aha moment was we were in 310 and we were doing a spirit box session.
Well, what we thought was 310 because move the numbers around a little bit too, which was an issue.
Damon was out in the hall with the spirit box on, and we were asking different questions. And then finally I said, do you guys remember me? Or do you remember me? And a few minutes later, he peeks in the door and he goes, what did you just ask? And I said, I just asked if they remember.
Because I'm out in the hallway and all I'm hearing through the headphones, because again, we were doing it similar to Kindred Spirits where we had the noise canceling headphones on. Right. I couldn't hear what the hell was going on. But all I'm hearing is Sue, Susan, Sue. And poor Erica is out in the hallway. She's writing down my answers to the questions that are being asked. And I'm watching her hand going a mile a minute. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, what's going on here? Because literally that's all I was hearing was Susan.
I love
Susan,
that.
Sue.
And in all honesty, I was sitting outside. There was another investigator. Was it somebody was? I was sitting next in front of or around Damon recording. There was another investigator about halfway down the hall, and before he starts saying Sue, we hear this almost like in the hallway, and I went, "Did you hear that?" And she went, "Yeah, I heard that." And then in the meantime, she's asking questions, and he's saying, Susan. And it was a perfect form of all this stuff going on at the same time.
Wow.
So, yeah, they know me.
Who's up next?
I guess that would be me. Well, my aha moment was with Sue, in the basement. I was at the time. I'm a former teacher, so this one comes to me and says, "Hey, there's a principal in the basement." So together, we set up that. Yeah. So I set.
That was the classic EVP.
Yeah. So I mean, I sat down and she started asking questions, and I had you ask all the questions. Yeah.
I said, introduce yourself.
Yep.
Tell them who you are. Tell them what your background is, and ask them some questions about what you would ask a normal principal if you were walking into a new job.
And I did. I asked him if he was hiring. I asked, from a young female teacher perspective. And I mean, it was just like Sue said, it was, I could not believe what I was witnessing. Cause again, it was my first experience and it was perfect.
We asked him if he'd be willing to talk to us and the K2 spiked.
Yep. Would he hire me? Because I was an English teacher. So that was appropriate for the time period of a woman being an English teacher. And it was just the perfect setup.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And I went, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's hungry.
It's a wild child.
Damon?
I'd say my aha moment was, this was, and it's going to be the 2014 investigation. It was the first time I've actually seen a negative interaction with a spirit in person. And it was when we were all in the hallway. We were going down by room 323. And that we were talking about, we keep joking about how lighters are not flashlights.
Oh, no,
yeah, it was near 324, 325.
Was it? Yeah. Yeah,
somewhere. It's in the higher numbers in the 300s, where Tim resided. And one of my investigators and Sue, Melissa and Sue, Matt, I think Ann was there, was the original membership. They were all down the hallway. I was hanging back. I had, a full spectrum cam, kind of filming the whole thing. And one of the EVPs was going. Matt had another one. And I think that was the same EVP that you have, where you get that specific one at the later on, where you hear the two words there. I had asked what room they're in, because Sue had actually come up behind me and was like, "Hey, where are they at?" Because we were trying to figure out where they were in the hallway, because it was so pitch black in there we couldn't see how far down they were in the hallway and all that stuff. And we were trying to figure out a reference point, and she lights her lighter and tells me, "Oh, I'm at room whatever it was, 325 or whatever." I'm like, 320, and I didn't even get out the last bit of the phrase, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" And it was literally a chain reaction. Like she got kind of pushed to the wall and then went down to the ground. It took 5 of us to pick her up. That was energy holding her down, and it literally took 5 of us, like hand on shoulders, all the way down, getting her back down to the command area. Through again that center stairwell, where it was like, okay, this is not good.
Right.
Granted, it wasn't as negative as what we had at Trudeau, but it was the first. Okay, we need to be more careful situation.
Yeah.
Amy
And
Lynn,
what
what
goes-
about you? Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy.
For the majority of the investigation, I was in sitting command. I think I was only on 2 EVP sessions in the entire investigation.
I was gonna say you were training somebody else for command.
I was training
at the time.
2 people for command, so I mainly was sitting in command, watching the tapes and recording and stuff like that. But I did my biggest, because there was a few things that happened while I was sitting in command, and I kind of wish we had like something for command, because
Well, we do now.
Now we do. There was at one point where everyone was upstairs, and I heard someone coming down the stairwell, because the stairwell is right next to where command was. So I went to turn around thinking that someone's about to come through that door. I didn't hear anything coming through the door. It's like, so I opened the door, no one was there. So I called, I'm just like, hey, where is everybody at? Everyone was still on the 3rd or 4th floor. And I was like, okay, someone just came out to check on me, and I have no idea who it was.
Wow.
And I didn't have any equipment to check with me, so I just marked it down as personal experience.
Right.
That's all I could do.
Hey, Brett, what about you?
Mine was probably at the hotel when kind of got choked out a little bit. I like to antagonize.
Speaking of triggering, he does a good job of this.
I had like
Got a little
massive
demeaning
trigger.
towards the female persuasion, and they choked his ass out.
There's a
Really?
beautiful picture with
Yeah.
cords all around.
Yeah, my face
Wow.
beat red.
Yeah. and he
If
was
you look
really
to the
bad at
2020
this
photos, there's one where his face is it's in the same round as where he's sitting on the toilet, and his face is literally beat red. There's easily 3 or 4 orbs around his head, and the reason we took that was because he was literally I can't breathe, and
I was in the room for that. I remember.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
this
there
guy's
was-
crazy.
he said something demeaning towards women or something like that, and it just like bam.
So let me ask you guys this then. When that's happening to you, when you're pushed down against the wall, when you're being choked, what goes through your mind when that happens to you?
How much do we really like this person? Should we even be?
Well,
no.
one thing I can think of is
That one, it was another one of those. Okay, we just need to shut this down,
I think
back
something
out,
over there,
and
yeah.
come out of the game.
Yeah, I think.
Same thing we did at Trudeau with that situation in James.
No.
Or, Animal.
We lost some of your audio there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You're very low. Maybe it doesn't like them talking about it.
Ooh.
No.
if he starts turning red, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Lights start
So-
flickering.
So Brett, what were you saying though? You what goes through your head when something's happening like that? I've had that happen to me before.
Marco.
There we go. We're up. So what happens? What do you think?
I mean, I was just kind of like, oh, that's very odd. I was like, it's really hot in here, and then I'm like, oh, I can't really breathe. It just kind of weird. You can't explain it. You're like, it's just like being sick, and it comes at you at once. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Hard to explain, actually.
We good?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
We're good.
yeah. I'm
Sarah, what about you? What was your experience? Your aha moment?
Well, actually, my aha moment would have been actually before we even started doing the investigation. And Damon was giving us a tour of the hotel, and we're going floor to floor, checking everything out. And we got up to the 5th and 6th floors, and I started not feeling well at all. I was very dizzy, disoriented. And I remember as we were walking through the hallway, there was a few door numbers and room numbers that kind of stuck out in my mind. And I could get weird feelings from them. So when we went back downstairs and we were all kind of convening, I had jotted down the room numbers, just because I was like, well, these ones are kind of, there's something interesting about them.
Right.
And then sure enough, as everybody was talking, all of a sudden they're talking about the exact same room numbers from the previous investigation and things that had spiked in different rooms that they wanted to go in. And I was like, okay, there's my aha. Like I am feeling something that it is real. This is, there's a reason that I was sensing those things at those exact numbers, because there is obviously something going on there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
so to preface that too, Sandy, and you know this from seeing how we rolled at the church. We do. I mean, we could have a 3-ring notebook worth of research on the place. We don't tell anybody except for me, Sue, and maybe Jess at the time what we found for research, because we don't want people coming in. This was our downfall in the first investigation of the hotel. We went in with blinders on because we knew every single thing that went down. Everybody in the team knew what the reports were or thought we did, and we went in and we focused on 6 rooms out of 100, and none of the hallways, none of the other stuff. I think that would be my other aha moment was when the camera got tipped over. So now what we do is we keep the research to ourselves until after the investigation or during the investigation. So that way, something like Sarah has, it justifies and solidifies what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Not only that, you're not going in with blinders.
Right.
Yeah.
And because that's what we were doing. We went in with blinders. And
Yeah. I know I personally don't want to know. I want to know as little as possible about a location before I get in there. Yeah. Because like Sarah's experience at the Hotel Saranac, I want my aha moments, and I want to know that what I saw or felt or thought of beforehand happens, isn't influenced in any way, because it's the weirdest feeling in the world to be, to have that confirmation, but it's also the greatest feeling in the world to have that confirmation.
And I'm another one that likes to go in cold too. I know we've had people that have asked us, well, don't you know all the background of the building? It's like, no, I don't want to. No. I don't want to know anything about it. I want to go in as cold as possible, so that way when I have these things and I see that shit in grin from Sue and she's giggling because it's justifying what we've discovered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about having Sue is that if you're in a situation and it's kind of that hot, cold, you're getting colder kind of thing. If she needs to kind of adjust or kind of direct people in certain areas to try and get stuff, if you're not, if you're in cold spots in the wrong part of the building, she can at least lead you where stuff might be going on too. But you don't necessarily have to start off the investigation going, you're going here, you're going there, you're going there. You know?
And she's actually done that for us, for Fort Schuyler Paranormal Society, and for Ghost Pubs and Grubs. Sue's actually done that for us ahead of time and said, you might want to ask this, or you might want to look here. Not specifics, but maybe point us in the direction where we might want to look. And a lot of times,
Columbo.
I know, but it's great.
One of my favorite things is when you start doing something and she gets that shit-eating
I was gonna say,
oh my gosh,
that you're on the right path, because she has no poker face.
I had a name come to me before the Russia Union Church, and we were all sitting down to dinner. And I just mentioned the name, and she got the look on her face, and I went, "Oh, okay, all right."
Well, at the Russian church, I had an experience with Sarah. Almost at the end of the night, we were going down the stairs, and Sarah was right in front of me, going down the stairs from the second floor to the bottom floor. And all of a sudden, Sarah's on the ground, and I'm like, "What the hell did you say?" This one is sitting there going,
"Yeah,
really, Sue?
Really."
I knew it.
There's Sue with her glass eye there.
But it's
just one more thing.
That's right.
One of the best things about it, though, I think for me in an investigation, is taking my own feelings that I get in visions ahead of time, taking my experiences during the investigation, and then finding out after the fact what the actual history of the place is, and putting the story together and coming up with a conclusion.
I do it in a way like that as well, except because I am on the research, team with Sue and everything. Right. So I like doing all the digging, but then I try not to share anything. But then I like to take the evidence and my personal experiences and then try to, piece everything together and see how it all fits.
Yep.
And what we do with our research is we and this is kind of where our secondary team, Relic Seekers, kind of comes into play, is we'll literally present the client with everything we've found for research. And the only time we'll give it to them is after we've verified it, double checked it, and have supporting evidence to say, hey, our research is legit. It's not just something we found on Wikipedia last week kind of deal. For instance, when we did Heaven Hill investigation, we had stuff that even the Historical Society didn't know about in our research. It was backed up. So, so we try try to make sure we have everything valid and fact based before we just say, oh yeah, by the way, this is going on, and here you go.
Right. So to sort of wrap things up, you guys, let's have a little bit of fun. On a scale of 1 to 10, how active, how haunted is the Hotel Saranac?
Gosh, 8.
Yeah, I'd say about an 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right around
Can't go there without
I
getting.
I would say a 9 from my
I was gonna- yeah.
experiences, but
Yeah.
They rank 7 in the USA Today poll for haunted hotels
Mhm.
in the Northeast, but I would say if it was more publicized, I think they'd have more people saying it was more like a number 2 or 3 spot for Northeast. They're pretty active.
Do you guys have any investigations coming up?
At the moment, no.
No, we've got right now our focus is completely on the haunted house that we do every year.
Yep.
We give a portion of the proceeds to a charity.
Very
And so actually after we finish here, we are headed over to the haunted house and we're going to do a
Yes,
dry
to
run. Yeah, and go get some work done.
Yeah.
So we run it 2 weekends, 2 days, 2 weekends each.
Excited. I get to make faces and scare people.
Right?
I think it's pretty cool that you guys do that. A paranormal investigation team does a haunted house too. I think that's super cool. Super cool.
You know,
Well,
You got to do what works,
there's many of us whose favorite holiday, mine included, is Halloween. And asking us, Susie, I got this from my father, and it is my favorite thing.
Well, you're a Halloween baby.
I am a Halloween baby. My birthday is on the second weekend. It's the first day of the second weekend that we're doing it. So I'm going to be hoping for at least 2 people to pee their pants. On that day.
You don't do it
That's
on a
quite
house,
a
and you have
goal.
to clean up the pee on the floor afterwards.
It's still there.
That's the pumpkin juice, Brett.
Oh.
We cleaned up the pee. I cleaned up the pee because I wasn't putting my hand in it. Because I was crawling on
It was bad last year. We scared a few people last year for sure.
Hey,
Well-
Damon, if people wanted to reach out to you because maybe they've got something going on in their home or they need answers to what might be happening, how can they reach out to you in that area?
Yep, they can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/appsparanormal. They can go to our website, www.appsparanormal.org.
It's just revamped and looks beautiful. Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
our esteemed web designer has updated the page, so it's not antiquated.
No
to
modesty there.
2014 anymore.
She is
You're not
not
modest at
Dang
all.
kids think they know everything.
Or they can
Kids today.
email us at info@appsparanormal.org.
I'm just
Beautiful.
proud of my work.
Nothing wrong with that.
There it is. That looks cool.
Yeah,
it's definitely a lot better than it used to be.
Oh,
Awesome.
100 times better.
Oh, hey, look, somebody from Oshkosh, Wisconsin just logged into the page.
Look at that.
Look at these weirdos, guys. Can you believe they're actually talking?
Very, very cool website. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your Sunday with us. This was so much fun.
Definitely.
It is our pleasure.
It was
Thank
amazing
you.
time.
Thanks, guys.
I would like it if you guys would send us directly some pictures from today's work on the haunted house. That
Yeah.
would be wonderful.
Definitely.
Oh,
Please
I
do.
would
Definitely.
You know what?
Definitely.
I think we can do that. And you know what? I'll send you a couple photos of my previous work for makeup, and you can see how gory it is.
Oh,
Very good.
yes. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, she has to learn to, express herself and
Yeah.
Well, murder is
The
illegal.
coping skills.
So my coping skill is just making it look like I am gushing blood.
It's quite a coping skill.
Okay.
Nothing weird.
No.
So there's a reason we have a mental health survey for new members applicants on the team now.
And if you fail, you get it.
She
So-
set the precedent.
Is
There's
that
a
part
reason
of
there's policy pages in the handbook, and this is why.
And remember,
Hey,
name the
hey, I'm
policy
not the worst.
name the policy page after her. Remember how important that is.
Yes,
Yes, that's
that's
right.
that's
That's
right.
right.
I feel
The elf
important.
page.
It's the Amy Lynn page.
No, elf.
Elf.
All right, we're gonna let you guys hang out in the background for just a sec. Thanks for
Thank
being
you,
on with us all,
guys.
Brett, Sarah,
That was
Amy Lynn.
awesome.
Thank
Ooh.
you.
All right, there you go.
Wow, that was great.
I think, and I've said this before, I think I'd really kind of fit in investigating with that group.
Without
they-
a doubt.
In fact, I will say that they probably have their shit together more than any other group that I've ever investigated with.
Todd, I experienced it when we did the Fort Schuyler and Apps joint investigation at
Yeah.
the Russia Union Church, and they are so organized and so professional with the equipment that, they use and everything. It was a fantastic investigation. And everybody's got a different personality. But again, like you and I are always saying, chemistry is so, so important. And everybody has that real chemistry. And of course, us going into a joint investigation, we didn't know what we were going to run into.
Right.
And so we all grabbed dinner beforehand. And it was like I'd known everybody for years. Everybody just got along. Everybody enjoyed their time together. You saw everybody, bust chops and has a good time. And it's so important in an investigation.
I also like that they do document everything, but the personal experiences. I mean, Sarah telling her story, for instance, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Another team may discount, or you telling your stories about getting the messages before and investigating. Another group may discount that.
Right.
And yet this group kind of embraces it. It's part of the entire story that they're presenting.
And that's what I love, because it's not just about science. It's not just about personal experiences. It's about taking both with respect and marrying them together to come up with the whole story. And that's why I love what these guys do.
And the history and all that kind of stuff.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
I'm actually very surprised and very proud of Sue. She sat through the entire thing and didn't have to run off at all.
A lot of people don't know the background, and we'll have to talk about it on the next.
There'll be a story told at some point.
Without a doubt. We saw the picture. But it was a great live cast. So thank you everybody for joining us today on a Sunday, a rare Sunday live cast for the Sandy and Toddcast.
And don't forget, Gina Cox going to join us on Wednesday night on our live cast on Ghostober. So talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye. Hold on. I got to find it. I got a new one. I got to find it. Where is it? There it is.
So much for that.